forgot to introduce myself, so hi, I'm Peyton and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be taking you through the books I read in September and October as a busy high school student, so enjoy.
Hello and happy November. If all goes according to plan, I will be posting this the first few days in November. I hope this is a wonderful month for you, and yeah. There are some fireworks in the background. I am actually filming this on Halloween, so there will be some fireworks. Today, I have my projector on. It's kind of reflecting off of me a lot, but I think it looks cool. Editing Peyton might think completely differently. But we have some fall library ambiance playing in the background, and I am in my happy place right now. Also, I'm trying out this new microphone, and hopefully it makes my videos even better. Although the fireworks might counteract the microphone in entirety. As I mentioned, today is October 31st, so Halloween, and I have a little bit of time on my hands amidst all the studying that I've been doing lately. So I thought we would go through the books I read in September and October. I didn't do a September wrap-up. I also didn't do an August wrap-up, but we're not going to get into that. In the past 2 months, I've read about the amount I would read in the average month. I've read about 8 books. Life has been really chaotic and hectic. I started grade 10 this year, and it's just been really, really busy, and there's been a lot of studying to do. The past 2 months have been some of the busiest months of my life, honestly. I'm really trying to put balance into my daily life, but sometimes it's just really hard to live a balanced life and also get sleep. It's kind of what I'm realizing. There's a lot of high school standards. Teenagers are put under a lot of pressure, and I'm not sure I completely agree with that. I think it's the best thing for teenagers' mental health. Anyways, that was a little bit of a tangent. But if you're going through a hard time with school right now, or feel like school is a lot, just remember your mental health is important. And though sometimes it may feel like school is the most important thing ever, prioritize your health, prioritize your mental health and your physical health. Get a little bit of sleep. I know school is hard. I think it's hard for everyone in a certain way. In the past 2 months, I have read 8 books, and I'm honestly very proud of that. It's less than I would usually read, but I'm proud of sitting and reading 8 books at all. I think that's pretty impressive, honestly, with the schedule I've had. So, I've got my Goodreads on my phone here. My Goodreads reading challenge is actually going really great. I have to read 1 more book and I'll hit my reading goal. So we're going to get into the 8 books I read so far this fall. Not all of these have necessarily been fall reads. I really explored a lot of genres this month. Did I though? Yeah, I explored a lot of genres this month. Like, I read my first memoir. But I only had 2 really amazing reads this month, so let's get into it. The first book I read this month, I read on Kindle Unlimited on my iPad. So I don't have the physical copy. For most of the books I read this month, I don't have physical copies. I think I only read 1 book in which I own the physical copy. But I read a book on Kindle Unlimited called Play It Dirty. This was a hockey romance, an influencer and a hockey player. I didn't like the book very much at all. I rated it 2 stars. When I think back on this book, I don't really think about anything in particular. Mainly because I don't think it had a huge impact on me. I can't really remember the 2 main characters' names whatsoever. I read it because it was a hockey romance and it had fake dating. And those are 2 of my favorite things. Well, I didn't really like either aspects, and that is saying something, because for me it's really hard not to like fake dating. The cover is kind of questionable of the Kindle one. I think there's an alternate cover. I'll probably use that one. The next book I read was Black Ties and White Lies by Kat Singleton. This was my first Kat Singleton book, and I've heard a lot about her books. Someone I follow on Instagram, I really didn't like it. I rated it 1 star. This was my venture into dark romance. I have read a little bit of dark romance, but I realized I haven't really enjoyed many of the dark romance books I've read very much. So I don't think this is the genre for me, or I haven't found my right book in this genre yet. Oh, we've gone to the Roku now. You know what? This is fine. This is kind of cool. It's like space. Next, I read Accidentally Amy. This is a book I would actually recommend. I really like this book. I ended up rating it 3.5 stars. When I look back on that rating, it's on the lower side, but I honestly read a lot of romance. It's my main genre, so for me to rate a book 3.5 stars in the romance genre is actually pretty high. I really enjoyed this book. It was a really fun read, honestly, and it's very fall, so if you want to read it as fall comes to an end, I would suggest you do that. If you're also a Starbucks enthusiast, which I am, a lot of this takes place in the Starbucks, which I thoroughly enjoyed. The premise of the book is basically, this book is about a woman named, her name is, what's her name? Isabel. This book is about Isabella. Basically, she's running really late to her first day at her new job, so she takes someone else's coffee order at Starbucks. It sounds really wrong. It was wrong, but it wasn't super wrong. You have to read it. The woman is named Amy, and basically she bumps into her future boss in the coffee shop, and he thinks her name is Amy, and then it just spirals into this whole situation, really. Honestly, very enjoyable read. Very funny, very likable. The characters had really, really cute quirks. Like, they both loved fast food and stuff. And I just love when characters are quirky and have very distinct personalities. I next read the second book in the Chestnut Spring series, which is called Heartless. The Chestnut Spring series is pretty famous. I read Flawless, and I think I rated it 3 stars. I read it in August. I didn't particularly love Flawless. It was okay. Let's look back. What did I actually rate Flawless? The more I think back on it, the less I liked it. But it was a fun read at the time. So I went into Heartless. I wasn't super excited about it, but the premise seemed kind of cool. I did not like the premise whatsoever once I got into the book. This book isn't short. It's almost 500 pages, and I read it on the Kindle. Oh, I was sick, so I got through this. This was my sick book. I read it while I had a really bad flu, and yeah, it kind of just is all I guess I was kind of half asleep when I read it, so I think that's why I read it. I didn't particularly have the brain power to even like change books. I don't think I'm going to continue with the Chestnut Spring series, which is a really unpopular opinion, but I don't think cowboy romance is for me, guys. I really was hoping it would be, and I would be kind of surprising to everyone, but it's not. It's really not. So it's about Kate and Willa. Willa is Kate's son's name. It's an romance. I do like romance. I have a lot of problems with it. And Willa and Kate fall in love. So that's nice. Now for the last book I read in October, which I absolutely loved, guys. This book was so good. It was a fantasy book. I haven't read the fantasy genre in the longest time. I think I haven't read it since like maybe June or July. But I read Assistant to the Villain by Nicole Maehrer, and this book was really good. I have a vlog coming where I read this book in a little while. That fall days vlog I keep promising you guys will come eventually. Anyways, Assistant to the Villain was a really good book. Nicole Maehrer is actually a TikToker under the name Hannah Nicole. And she started these Assistant to the Villain skit TikToks that were hilarious and got really famous through them, and basically turned a lot of them into a book, like turned the premise into a book. And the TikToks were hilarious, so I didn't think the book could really be any better, and I wondered if it would be a bit of a flop. It was even better than the TikToks, if that was even possible. I loved it so very, very much. I rated it 4.75 stars. Like, I broke into the quarter stars through this book because it was higher than 4.5, and I didn't quite get that 5-star feeling because it was the first book in a series, but I feel like a 5-star could definitely be a potential for the second book. I wanted a little bit more romance in this fantasy book, but I think I was supposed to want more romance. I think that was intentional. And this is really kind of the cozy, low-stakes fantasy sort of novel in a really easy world. Like, there's not a lot of world building. If you are starting off and getting into fantasy, I would definitely suggest you pick up this book. It's also hilarious. It's about a woman who is an assistant to the villain. Pretty obvious from the title. And basically she has a huge crush on this villain. And they have this really cute relationship of villain, boss, and assistant, and it's hilarious. And basically they kind of go on this adventure quest sort of thing together, and you see their relationship evolve as they do so through a bunch of jokes and like really quirky personalities, which I love. That brings us to October and my one physical book, which is A Name Drop by Susan Lee. I read it in basically a day. I think I read most of the book in a day. It's pretty short. This was a really anticipated read for me this year. I loved Susan Lee's first book, Soulmates, so I really wanted to read it. I rated Soulmates 5 stars and really loved it. And I really thought the cover was beautiful, and that was all the motivation I needed. Upon reading the premise and starting the book, I was also really excited because it seemed like a great book. I did enjoy this book, but I have to say, maybe I hyped it up a little bit too much in my brain before reading it, because it ended up being a 3-star book, and I didn't like it as much as Susan Lee's first book. I don't know whether or not I will recommend this book. I think it depends on the person. If you're looking for a really cute, short New York romance, yeah, then I think you should read it. It's enjoyable, it's short, I got through it really fast, and I have to admit it is cute. Because I love Soulmates so much, I expected similar tropes, similar things in this book, but I didn't love the romance. However, I was totally here through the vibes and the New York feelings. Yeah, I loved all that. If it appeals to you, then yeah, read it. If you don't want to look into this book, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it anyway, so do not worry. This is about a girl and a guy, and they both have the same Korean name. And basically, they are mistaken for one another and follow the other's lives for a few days before they figure out what's happening. Once they figure out what's happening, they're like, oh my goodness, that other person's so cute. And you know what? They can live my life. I like living their life. And then it's basically just this journey of secrets and crushes. Next, I read my first audiobook this month. So around this point, I had no time to read anymore because I had started A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I am still reading. I'm currently on almost page 250, and loving it. I think this is going to be a super high rated book, guys. More about it in the vlog coming up, and more about it in my next reading wrap up. But I've been reading this since the beginning of October. I started it right after the name drop. And I barely have time to pick up a book and read. So Sunny Kim Reads, one of my favorite booktubers at the moment, suggested if you have no time to read because you're studying and because you're super busy and like walking to school and all this sort of stuff and taking transit, then you should read audiobooks. And I was like, you know what? I've always been opposed to audiobooks. Just a different form. And I understand that they're not for everyone. I'm not here to push audiobooks on you, but at the same time, yeah, they're awesome. Maybe give them a try if you haven't. I've read about 15 hours worth of audiobooks content. And I started with The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. I was super excited to read this audiobook because honestly it's a Lynn Painter book, and I read Better Than the Movies and absolutely loved it. Thought this would be very similar. It was similar in a lot of ways, but I didn't like it as much as Better Than the Movies. I didn't find it even close. I ended up rating the book 2.5 stars, but by the end I just wanted to get through it. And I found it was very classic romance tropes, and there was nothing unique about it. It was just fluffy romance, every romance book, like everything that normally happens on repeat, on repeat, on repeat. There was nothing unique about it. It was also just one perspective. Better Than the Movies was one perspective too, but I really identified with Liz's character a lot more than I did, why can't I think of their name? What's his name, Nick? Why can't I remember his name? Honestly, did get a little bit bored at times. Preferred it to be a little less predictable. And romances, you know, they're not thrillers. They are supposed to be somewhat predictable. There was something that happened and I was like, oh, I know what's going to happen. And I knew it was going to happen. They're like 3 hours of the audiobook. And then it happened and I was like, was that supposed to be a surprise? Wow, that did not sound like a rave review. And then I read another audiobook, and it was my first memoir, and I'm very proud of myself because I went out of my comfort zone, and I'm happy I did because I did really enjoy this memoir, although I did find it fairly stressful to read. I'm a person who would read a memoir about a mundane daily life, honestly. I think that's what blogs are. I watch a lot of blogs. But I read Jeanette McCurdy's memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died. I rated it 3.5 stars. I found Jeanette McCurdy's experience was very stressful and very sad. But she's such a resilient woman, and you can tell she's been through a lot. And by the end, I was so proud to almost have gone through the journey through her book, and seen her from age 8 to 26, was it? I would definitely suggest looking up the trigger warnings, but I did find it really sad at times. I was really liking the book at the beginning and really excited for the after her mom died and the after part of the novel. But I feel like the ending had no sort of finality. I feel like it was kind of just like, and this is how it is. And I was like, oh, I was really hoping for some like fairy tale ending, even though it's a memoir and life isn't a fairy tale. I think I'm gonna read more memoirs. So all in all, I'm really proud of myself for reading 8 books in the past 2 months. And I think, although these months didn't have a lot of particularly amazing books, I feel like I really read out of my comfort zone, and I read one really great, almost 5-star book in these past 2 months. I've read my first memoir, started reading audiobooks. I feel like these past 2 months have been a lot of milestones in my life, and that feels kind of amazing. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for being here with me, being here on my channel. And I'm hoping to film a little TBR video. I don't know if it's going to be on here or my Instagram, but stay tuned for that. Sending hugs and kisses, hoping you have the absolute best of Novembers, hoping it's a good reading month for you or that you read a good book. I will see you next time. Also, so close to my Goodreads goal. Oh, random. I started The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hong on audiobook. That's the current audiobook I'm reading. Okay, I can let you go now. Bye.